Dobrý deň, vítajte pri sledovaní relácie Portrét. Dnes si spoločne s mojím hosťom nasadíme červené nosy a otvoríme naše srdcia. Hovoriť budeme s lekárom, klaunom, ktorý vie, že humor lieči. Vyše 30 rokov pomáha ťažko chorým deťom na lôžkových oddeleniach nemocníc, vyučuje klaunovanie, pomáha pri rozvoji projektov zameraných na klaunovanie v nemocniciach po celom svete. Od roku 2004 je umeleckým riaditeľom Červeného nosa na Slovensku a v susedných Čechách, vyučuje na prvej lekárskej fakulte Karlovej univerzity v Prahe v rámci medicínskej psychológie vzťah medzi lekárom a pacientom. Vo svojom voľnom čase skladá hudbu, píše a vyučuje nemocničný personál techniky terapie humorom. Gary Edwards. Hi, welcome.
Dobrý deň.
Mr. Edwards, I did the introduction and it was like 36 years ago when you probably walked first time as a clown into the hospital to cheer up children who are being there for a long time. If you compare the emotional state of yours at that time and today, did something change?
Yeah, I realized actually, in the meantime, I've realized that this work, that humor in healthcare has a place. It was an experiment back then, and everyone said I was completely crazy. Of course, these two words, you can't even put it in the same sentence, humor and healthcare.
It doesn't fit together. Yeah?
No, but I believed it did, and in fact today, I mean, these projects exist all over the world.
What was your belief based on at that time?
Just my personal experience, I think. Just I wanted to combine the things that I was interested in, and that came together as clowning in hospital.
Did anybody help you personally with humor in healing?
No. At that time, everyone actually
Because
thought.
I guess many people talk to you. I said, okay, we may allow you to do so, but how will you prove that it's going to help?
Right. Well, that took a while. In the beginning, of course, they thought that I needed to be in the hospital because this idea was too crazy. But here in Europe, for instance, I started by speaking at conferences about health care and humor and how these things could work together. And when I saw a bit of interest, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And so I would go as a clown into the hospital just to show the hospital staff the possibilities. And that was the best method, I think, to get people to understand what I was talking about. Because you can talk about health care and humor, you know, you can put it in as many words as you want. But actually do clowning in the hospital, that's the best recipe for as an information process.
And where it was? Where did it start?
Where I started was in California, actually. But then I have to say there was a big gap when I was busy with other things. I was busy with clowning. I was doing clowning all over the world, not in hospitals. Yeah. And a good friend of mine, really, Michael Christensen in New York, started a project which is really a conceptual idea. I have to admit, when I was starting, I had no concept.
Just by intuition.
Yeah, and it was working a bit, but actually Michael Christensen really developed a concept which is accepted all over the world now as the concept for hospital clowning.
We should imagine something like a medical concept or a psychological concept of how to work with those patients. What should we imagine?
Well, you know, it was really a combining of clowning and the hospital environment. And his idea was to, wear white coats, to use hospital procedures as the root of the humor, so that children, when they could laugh at these procedures, they would no longer fear them.
So it's the connection in your head or your heart.
Yes, it's definitely a psychosocial program then.
Mm-hmm. And you've been in contact with that man, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And when did you say, yes, I'm going into it, that's going to be my profession?
Well, first of all, I was training people to do this work. I was helping projects that started up, and you know, I don't know if you know the 100th monkey phenomena. The Macau monkey was living on many islands in Japan, and after the war, sociologists did a study where they would bring sugar beets to the beach and give them to the monkeys or leave them there for the monkeys. Suddenly they noticed that a mother had washed the food before eating it, because of course it was filled with sand. And then her babies started washing the food before they were eating it, and slowly, over a period of several years, more and more monkeys were washing the food, which is a big social step. We're washing the food before eating it. And at the point when about 100 monkeys took this social step, suddenly all of the monkeys were taken. Not only on that island, on other islands, suddenly all of the Macau monkeys were washing their food.
It's like a collective knowledge.
Yes, a Jungian concept almost. But the 100th monkey phenomena in clowning, also in hospital clowning, definitely, because at the point when about 100 people were doing this work in hospital, suddenly there was interest everywhere. And it was no longer a matter of trying to explain it or talk people into accepting it as a concept. Suddenly everyone agreed, yes, this is a good idea.
So who are these people who, just like you, help these small children in hospitals? Who they are? Who they are?
Okay, these projects work best with performing artists who are trained performing artists. They are professionals because the artistic level must be at a high standard. This is very important for these projects. I've seen many of these projects start up with volunteers who really have no artistic training and they don't last very long. It doesn't really work.
Why is it so important?
It's because it's an artistic project with a social calling, not the other way around. It's not a social project with an artistic calling. It's really an artistic project.
So you need to know to do your job.
Yes.
You don't think about how you do it, because that comes natural for you if you do it so many hours and on a professional level. Okay. So there is no place for improvising all the time?
Definitely. Improvising is a big part of it.
Yeah?
In fact, learning the art of improvisation is a very important tool. I teach them partner work. I teach them who the clown is, that the clown is not a role that we play. The clown is ourselves. We all have comic elements.
It's an adult who forgot to grow up, but still enjoys playing.
Well, we should all enjoy life, you know. The clown is a mirror of our society. So the clown needs to have a developed personality in order to mirror that. And that's what we laugh at. You know, it's interesting too, I've taught hospital clowning all over the world, and every culture laughs at the same thing. Everywhere. Last year I developed a project in Palestine, and I was wondering myself, they have no real tradition of theater. Yeah. They have storytelling, which is the closest thing, but then they laugh at the same thing. And it was in the hospitals we use the same techniques as we use here in Slovakia, and it works the same.
So what are the rules when they step into the room of a small patient in the hospital?
Rules. I try not to set rules, but there is a rule, in fact. You're right. We ask, may we come in?
A permission.
Yes, and we're the only ones that do this, which is empowering the patient. We empower the patient by allowing them the choice. In the hospital, they've lost a lot of power. They've lost, they've lost the power to say no, and we give them that back.
And if there is a yes?
It's mostly a yes.
Thanks God. Then what is happening?
Oh, then we enter the room as a team, 2 clowns, which is also important because we give the patient also more room than that's because the clowning can involve the 2 clowns, also involving, of course, the patient, but the patient can step out or step in, and it gives them the freedom of that choice as well.
And the hospital personnel, how they react? Do they take part in
Yes, they love us. Of course, the personnel love us. In fact, we even sometimes do special clowniada, special clowning for the hospital staff. When they have a very difficult week, for instance, they lose a few patients, which happens, we will come in and do a hospital visit for just the nurses, for instance. And they love us for it. We sing them songs, we give them flowers, and you know, they need the stress relief as much as the patients, really.
How do you face the situation at that point? Because I guess you see that fear in those eyes, either of the small patient, of a child, or many of the times you've got parents in the room, so you see those faces who are afraid of death, of the illness itself. How do you face that? How do you deal with that?
Fear is an interesting thing. You know, we have we have instincts to deal with fear, which are not always the right decision. When I'm training clowns for this work, and you see fear in the hospital, when a patient, maybe our instinct is to go forward and embrace the child, to protect the child. Not always the best choice. Even with nurses who I have in my seminars, I say, consider maybe a step back.
Like just accepting it?
Yes.
Not to fight with it, just accept it?
Yeah, and as far as how we deal psychologically with the situation in the hospital, Dr. Senova here in Bratislava, in Kramara, explained this very, very well. And it works the same for us as it works for hospital staff. In the beginning, she works in the children's oncology department, so she sees this every day. Her explanation was absolutely perfect. She said, in the beginning, you see the illness and the child.
Like cloud, yeah.
And it doesn't take long before you see the child and the illness.
Oh.
Because they're children, they stay children, even if they're ill. They have the same desires and the same wishes, the same motivation. They want the same things, and that's what we give them.
Why is this happening? Why are children dying? Why are children on oncologies all around the world? There's definitely some part of the society who believes that it's our emotional life that reflects into the sickness we get. But with the children, what the hell did they do wrong?
Well, I think there's a whole lot of factors. You know, there's a genetic factor. There's lifestyle choices made. There's pure luck in some point, bad luck in some cases. So it's a complex issue which you can't really define as this is the ingredient or the catalyst for illness. I don't think you can really define it that way.
Do you even think about the illness?
No.
Of those kids?
No,
never.
Not anymore. No.
Not anymore.
No.
So there was a time when you did?
Sure. Sure, and especially when the healing process is very visual, you know, in the oncology ward, for instance. But no, it doesn't take really very long before you realize that, and the clowns all realize this, that they're children. They're children first, and they're ill second.
So then what do you do when you come into the room and you don't see the patient because it might have died? And you see the empty bed, and you remember that face, you remember that laugh. So how do you deal with it?
It is difficult. It's as difficult for us as it is for hospital staff who lose patients. We each deal with that in our own way. We supply psychological supervision for our clowns, so that they have a forum, a place to vent those emotions and to work through them. It's not easy. I've had patients who have actually asked me to be there when they die.
Did you?
Which is, it's very emotional,
and
of course.
And you said yes.
Actually, I heard this from the mother after the patient had died. She was not able to communicate that to me before. It was too emotional for her, so she told me after he had died that, because we had a very nice relationship, and I saw where it was going. Of course, physically he was not getting better, and it was not successful, the treatment. But then I heard just after he died, she came back to the hospital, caught me in the hallway, and told me what his wish was, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, we deal with it all, I think, in our own way. And we have to move forward. Our work it shouldn't keep us from doing the work, because our work is about life. Our work is not about death. And in fact, that's our place in the hospital. I describe it such that the entire staff, and of course they have medical training, so their entire focus is on illness, and that's their job. And it starts with the word nemocnice, right? Or hospital. It starts with that word. The entire focus is on illness. So our job is to bring a different focus into the hospital, and focus on life and joy and the joy of life.
For who is it more difficult to understand that there is a certain enjoyment and life in healing. Is it more difficult for adults, for the hospital personnel, medical practice, or children?
You know, quite often it's more difficult for the parent to understand the process than it is for the child. The child, quite often, at least to a certain age, doesn't dwell on the fact that they're ill. They see it more as the limitations that it imposes rather than the illness itself. They may see it as well, I'm not able to go see my friends at school. Yep. You know, I have to be in this strange place, rather than if they don't necessarily, to a certain age group, focus on the illness itself. Whereas the parents understand the process of illness much better, and sometimes they're much more stressed, in fact, than the children. And that's our job as well.
You just include them?
Of course.
What parents.
You do? Oh, the parents. If the parents can laugh for a moment or see their child laugh, that's a big stress release.
And what do? You play instruments, or
yes.
Sometimes you don't even use words?
Yeah, music is very important, I think. And because our job is also generally to change the atmosphere in the hospital. And music works great because, you know, if we're playing the ukulele at this end of the hallway, the children at the other end of the hallway hear this and they know, the clowns are coming.
Yeah.
Yes. So it has this added effect.
And I know that you do it quite often because music is something very close to your heart.
Yes, it is.
You studied music and you composed music. So tell me about the past.
Oh, music was my first love.
And still is, I guess.
Yes, it still is. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time for it. I got to play yesterday at live with a small band, and it was really, really fun. I don't get to do that very often, I'm afraid, but I do every year. I put together a CD of my songs, you know, because I spend most of my time writing material that no one will ever listen to. You know, I finish it and put it in the drawer. But so I decided some years ago that every year I would do a CD that is listenable.
Oh.
So I call it pop jazz.
Pop jazz.
And I just give it to friends. It's just, I don't sell it. I don't want to sell it. It's not the point. The point is just to express myself and finally, you know, produce something that someone will listen to, hopefully.
And you do your work with adults as well, because you teach at the university in Prague. Why did you choose this way, this pathway, to get closer to those who are professional in medicine?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. You know, in the beginning, actually, I started teaching seminars for nurses. So I still teach accredited seminars in the Czech Republic and in Slovakia. And just lately, I taught a group of people in Austria. Rather, I taught them how to teach these humor in healthcare. And I started doing this because...
That's the title of the subject?
Yeah. I started doing this because it helped the communication between the clowns and the hospital staff. It really improves that communication, and we need that. We need to work very closely with the hospital staff in order to make our job complete and make it work well. So we put a lot of effort into the communication with the hospital staff. And in fact, before each visit, we communicate with the hospital staff about the patients, and we get the information we need to do our job right. And we take our job seriously. So these seminars really helped the communication between the clowns who would come then after the seminar and hospital staff. And then it just kind of went further, and I was asked to teach medical students, and it just... I always say yes. That's maybe my problem.
But what are the results you're getting? Tell me.
Great results.
It's like nicest infection spread all over in all hospitals. They laugh and they do understand. The humor is very important.
Well, I do think humor is important. I think it's important for the healing process as well. It gives perspective. It gives humanity back to the patient. It's a stress release. It has a lot of functions, and it should be an integral part of all healthcare. That's what I think.
With humor, and I believe that you've been asked this question many times, can you prove me that humor helps? And I know that just by being there in the hospital room, you see it works.
Yes.
You don't need scientific proof,
No.
rational proof of that.
No.
But for all those people who work in medical institutions, they are very rational people.
Yes, and medicine is very rational. Medicine, and you know, we are not doing anything better than medicine by any means. Medicine has made great bounds of, you know, in the last years. It's medicine is. I see our work as simply and only a complement to the healing process. In fact, it's the medical professionals which are doing the real work, and we, I myself, and we respect them very much, and we see ourselves as just guests in their environment, and yes, and just a complement to what they're doing.
And I guess it gives a certain flavor to the healing process. It's like salt and pepper.
Yes.
They can give the medicine, they can work with rational stuff and healing processes, but it's something very, very special.
Oh, yes. And I do think that the medical personnel understand our role as well. They know that what we're doing is a complement to what they're doing.
How important it is to see that the patient himself or herself accepts it. They just take it in, instead of just watching it as a spectacle.
It's immediate. We see the results immediately. Yes, I mean when they light up in a smile or laugh in a hospital setting. I mean, you know, that's like I said in the beginning when I first started thinking about this. I mean, the idea of putting humor and healthcare together was impossible, and it's still today. Every time a little miracle, every time a patient who is suffering, and suffering enough to be in the hospital, can smile and laugh about whatever in that situation. It's a miracle.
And is that uplifting for you? Because I guess then we might not say it's a depressing job.
No, it's a wonderful job. I can't imagine a better job.
Do you laugh or cry more?
Laugh.
Yeah?
Definitely. It's very rewarding in that. And also for all the clowns, we rarely have clowns who leave this work because they love this work. They work in theater, they may work in performing arts, but they never get the satisfaction that they get doing, you know, the work in the hospital. So the Červený nos Clowndoctors, every one of them loves this work completely.
So what kind of future do you see for those people who work for you and who help you with the red nose clowning?
Well,
let's just imagine a picture, the ideal picture.
Okay, I mean, where's healthcare going? You know, it's going to places which we don't see yet, but I think what we will see is a whole lot more. The healthcare process is being done at home. I think we will see online and self-diagnostic techniques grow, which is good because ultimately that will mean less children will have to be in hospital. They can go through the healing process at home. One of the projects that we have is a project where clowns, it's a hospice project where children who are in palliative care at home get visited by doctors, and the clowns come with them. And so maybe that's a kind of a direction that maybe far in the future will be the direction of humor in healthcare. It's hard to say.
Maybe we will use much more humor instead of chemicals and products of pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
And I guess it's going to be cheaper then.
I also think that the medicine will be more tailor-made. It will be genetically. It will be.
You believe the
designed for our
will be
genetic
encoded
material.
I
think it will be tailor-made for us. So there'll be a lot less side effects. It will be more targeted directly on the illness, and I think it'll be more effective.
Maybe humor will be included in that genetic information.
Yeah, humor is always tailor-made. You know, we work individually with each patient. We do not do a show in that respect. The clowns are trained to work with every age group because we go bed to bed and work tailor-made right there for each patient. So. Yes, it'll work good together. Nowadays
you live in Czech Republic, so where do you see yourself? Because you are the artistic director. Do you have the right title for you at this moment?
Not in this moment anymore.
Who you are.
No one knows.
Just a clown.
Actually, I've kind of given up the artistic direction.
Why?
Because there are so many projects that need developing. If someone asks me anymore where I live, I say in my car.
Oh.
You know, and not exactly.
So you are on a mission.
Wow, you know, I've learned some things in the process of doing this over the years, and I think I can put that to better use by helping develop these projects. And I'm developing now a project in Poland, and I was last year developing a project in Palestine, which is very interesting, because of the whole Arab Spring. You know, in that time, I got to be in the Arab world, which was quite interesting. A week ago, I was in Saudi Arabia, invited together with the international organization that I work with to speak at conferences and perhaps develop a project in Saudi Arabia, which was
that sounds
also
interesting.
So yeah, so there's lots of questions out there, people asking for help in Turkey, in Estonia, in Russia. So, and I'm still doing workshops, you know, going back to do training. I work with the International School of Humor in Vienna, which is only for hospital clowns, together with Red Noses International.
And since this work and clowning is ageless, you can do it as long as you feel so. Doesn't it? The older you get, more skilled you get.
Definitely, definitely, because it's about you bring your experience to it. Definitely, yes.
So, how do you see yourself in the future?
Well,
traveling, setting up.
Well, I'll tell you. You know, we started developing geriatric projects.
Oh,
so the
older
clowns
people
go
as well.
Yes, and exactly for that reason, because I'm over 60, and so. It won't be long before I'll be in a geriatric home somewhere, and I want the
so
clowns
you feel
to come,
like you need to spice it up.
Yeah, I want the clowns there for sure. So I have to start now.
Tell me, define me the need, because people need to know. Do you believe that there is a certain need to work with these elderly people as well?
Absolutely.
Why is it so important?
Why is it so important? I think it's a big mistake that we isolate people in our society, that we don't want to see them. You know, there are cultures where, in fact, the elderly are the spokesman for the society, or they bring the wisdom to the society, and we've forgotten that a bit.
We're not sharing that wisdom.
No, and the experiences that they have. You know, we need to share that. We need to support that, and humor is a great tool. I have to say we do completely different work with geriatric.
In what meaning?
I mean, we do more, you know, we sing the old songs. It's more memory training, and with the clowning, much different than what we do with children. So it has a different function, but it is just as valuable, definitely.
But do you get the same reactions?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had patients speak who haven't spoken for years. We've had patients begin to sing, you know, and come alive, and as if it was, you know, they're 20, 25 again. Had them begin to dance when they can barely walk. It's yeah. There's also very many little miracles happening with the elderly.
If I would put the golden fish in my hands, what would we ask the golden fish to do for you and to do for Red Noses? I put the nose. Yeah. I hope it brings good luck.
Yeah. What would I ask? Just to continue to support the project. We need support. You know, we can't do this project without support, and we have a very, very lovely, beautiful support here in Slovakia, and I just ask that continues.
Thank you for an interview, and I wish you all the good luck you're going to need on your mission. A lot of energy, good health.
Thanks.
That's very important, very important. And have fun with the Red Nose.
Thank you very much.
Dámy a páni, našim hostom v relácii Portrét bol Gary Edwards.